Imagine for a moment, in the vast, silent darkness of space, where countless stars twinkle like distant diamonds, there is a world that hides incredible secrets and extremes that are almost impossible to grasp. You are standing on a rugged, ancient surface, scarred by countless craters from eons ago. The sky above is pitch black, even in the middle of the day, because there is no atmosphere to scatter the light. On one side of your body, you are being scorched by the intense, unforgiving glare of the sun. It's a heat so fierce it could melt the strongest metals. Every inch of your skin stings, as if caught in a blazing fire. But at the same time, on the other side of your body, a bone-chilling cold takes hold. It's a freezing void where everything stands still, where molecules almost stop moving entirely. And the most terrifying part? There is nowhere to run. No middle ground. No place to find relief from these two brutal extremes. This is Mercury, the planet closest to the Sun, yet a world defined by mystery and contradiction. It is the hottest and the coldest, all at once. It is a lesson from the universe, a journey to the very limits of nature that reflects back on our own lives. It reminds us that sometimes extremes are simply an unavoidable part of the journey. If you were to look from afar through a powerful telescope, Mercury might seem like nothing more than a tiny grey dot racing quickly around the Sun. It looks quiet, ordinary, lacking the majestic rings of Saturn or the vibrant colours of Mars. But beneath that simple exterior, Mercury hides a reality that is both fascinating and harsh beyond imagination. It is the smallest planet in our solar system, only about a third the size of Earth, even smaller than some moons. But don't let its size fool you. It is the second densest planet we know, which tells us it has a massive, heavy iron core. Being the Sun's closest neighbour, at an average distance of only 58 million kilometres, it faces an overwhelming onslaught of solar energy. The sunlight hitting Mercury is 7 times more intense than what we feel on Earth. Imagine the hottest summer day you've ever experienced, and then multiply that intensity many times over. That is Mercury's daily reality. What truly sets Mercury apart is that it has almost no atmosphere at all. Instead of a thick blanket of nitrogen and oxygen like we have on Earth, Mercury has only a thin, fragile layer called an exosphere. It's made of atoms like hydrogen, helium and sodium, kicked up from the surface by solar winds. This thin layer can't act as a shield or a warm blanket to regulate the temperature or protect the surface from radiation and meteorites. Unlike our Earth, which filters out harmful rays and burns up space rocks before they hit the ground, Mercury stands naked, completely unprotected. Everything on its surface is exposed to the raw power of the cosmos. It is a world where nature shows us its most magnificent and its most brutal face. The lack of a real atmosphere doesn't just mean there's no air to breathe. It means there is no way to control the temperature. Imagine a house with no roof, no walls, and no insulation. When the sun shines, the heat pours in directly, scorching everything in its path. And the moment the sun sets, all that heat escapes instantly into the void of space. Nothing stays behind to keep the world warm. This happens every single day and every single night. On Mercury, there is no wind, no clouds, no rain. There is only a haunting, heavy silence. A silence so deep you might even hear your own heartbeat if you could stand there. During the day, temperatures can soar to 430 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to melt lead. The solid rock beneath your feet could practically turn into a lake of molten metal. The sunlight doesn't feel warm. It feels like destruction, a relentless, merciless burn. But as the long night begins, a night that lasts for many Earth days, the temperature plummets. It drops all the way down to minus 180 degrees Celsius. That is far colder than the North Pole. It's so cold that the very gases in the exosphere might freeze solid. Everything becomes brittle, fragile, ready to shatter. This 600-degree swing is the most extreme temperature change in the entire solar system. It's not just hot or cold, it is extreme, with no safety net, no middle ground to rest. This is the harsh truth of Mercury, a lonely world facing the violence of the universe all on its own. It teaches us that an atmosphere isn't just about breathing. It's what makes our Earth an oasis of life in a vast and unforgiving universe. Imagine if you could stand on Mercury without a spacesuit. You open your eyes, and the first thing you feel is the blinding glare. The sun appears 2.5 times larger than it does on Earth, burning directly into your vision. You would feel the heat radiating through every part of you, not just on your skin, but deep in your bones, in every cell. Your skin would blister almost instantly. Without protection, the heat would build up until it's unbearable. And because there is no air, you wouldn't be able to breathe. Your lungs would ache for oxygen, but find only emptiness. Everything would be silent, just the crushing heat and a profound sense of isolation. You might look for shade behind a crater or a large rock, but even in the shadows, the heat trapped in the ground would still radiate outward. There is no escape. You would feel like you were trapped in a giant oven with no way out. But if you turned away from the sun and stepped into the darkness, everything would change in an instant. The scorching heat would vanish, replaced by a cold that bites deep into your soul. It's a cold so intense it would turn you to stone. Your muscles would freeze, your movements would slow down until you felt like a statue of ice. The rocks around you would crack and groan under the stress of the sudden temperature drop. You would see your shadow stretching out into an endless starless dark, just the freezing void and a terrifying silence, making you feel like the last living thing in the universe. This is the experience of Mercury, a test of endurance in a place beyond human imagination. On Mercury, time moves to a different rhythm. It's not just about how fast it orbits, but the strange relationship between its rotation and its journey around the sun. One single day on Mercury, from one sunrise to the next, takes 176 Earth days. Imagine waiting that long for the sun to rise again. In that time, Mercury has already circled the sun twice. This is a spin-orbit resonance, a 3:2 ratio, where it rotates 3 times for every 2 orbits it completes. This creates a phenomenon called a double sunrise in some parts of the planet. Imagine the sun rising over the horizon, scorching the land, and then suddenly, it sets again for a brief moment, as if night is returning. But then, it rises a second time, continuing its slow crawl across the sky. It's a sight that challenges everything we know. It's a world where the rules of time are flipped upside down. Our sense of time is defined by the Earth's rotation, by the rhythm of day and night, and the changing seasons. But on Mercury, those rules don't apply. It reminds us that what we call normal is just what we are used to. It's just one perspective from our tiny blue world. The universe is full of wonders that challenge our understanding. The strangeness of time on Mercury isn't just a scientific fact. It's an invitation to open our minds, to accept that reality isn't one size fits all. Mercury whispers to us, don't limit yourself to your old ways of thinking, because there is so much more to discover. Mercury is a world of extremes, with no middle ground. And sometimes, our lives feel the same way. We've all had moments where we felt like we were standing on Mercury, moments where our emotions soar to the highest peaks or crash to the lowest depths. The overwhelming joy, the burning passion, the bright light of success that makes us feel like we're floating on clouds, or the crushing sadness, the dark disappointment, the failure that makes us feel frozen and numb. In those moments, we look for a safe space, a middle ground where we can rest and hide from the extremes. We long for a life that is smooth, a steady happiness without pain or challenge. We try to build safe zones in our relationships, our careers, even our thoughts, just to avoid the volatility of life. But often, we find there is no middle ground, no safe zone to hide in. Just like Mercury has no atmosphere to protect it, life sometimes leaves us exposed. We have to stand in the heat of our problems or the cold of our loneliness without any shield. And that is the lesson Mercury teaches us. Accepting the extremes might be the only way to move through them. It shows us that trying to run away from the extremes isn't always the answer. Perhaps the key is learning to live within them, to understand that joy and sorrow, success and failure are all part of the same path. They are things to be embraced, not rejected. Just as an explorer learns to survive in harsh environments, we must learn to survive our own emotional shifts and find meaning in those extremes. There are times in life when you might feel like you're standing on Mercury, burning with the pressure, the expectations, the anger that scorches your heart, or freezing with the loneliness, the emptiness, the despair that bites at your soul. In those moments, you might be searching for a middle ground that doesn't exist. We try to find balance, a perfect just right in everything. We believe a good life is a flat line without the ups and downs. We avoid pain and cling to happiness, but in reality, life isn't always like that. Maybe accepting that some things have no middle ground is the first step toward growing. Mercury teaches us that extremes are a part of nature, and so are they a part of us. Joy and sorrow, love and loss, they are two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. To try and have only one side is to deny the reality of being alive. Maybe we don't need to find a perfect place. We just need to learn how to breathe in the heat of our struggles and how to find warmth in the cold of our isolation. We need to understand that being in an extreme doesn't mean something is wrong. It's just part of the experience, the thing that gives our lives depth and mystery. Like Mercury, even in its extremes, it is still beautiful. It is a vital part of this vast universe. It reminds us that even in the deepest darkness, there is light, and even in the coldest void, there is hope waiting to be found.